What's up, YouTube peeps and barbecue freaks? Merry New Year to everybody. That's right, Merry New Year to each and every single one of you. It is 2018, and we're going to kick off this new year with some brisket burnt ends. What better way to kick off the new year than with some brisket? I love me some brisket, and I really love me some burnt ends, so this is going to be perfect. That's what this video is going to be about. We're going to do some brisket burnt ends. I got a brisket point that I picked up. We're going to inject it, season it. It's going to be good. Before we get on to this video, I just want to say that I hope and I pray, I truly do pray, that each and every single one of you had an amazing Christmas, that you got to spend it with your family, friends, your loved ones. I hope you guys had an awesome New Year. Hope you got to spend that with your family and loved ones as well. I did. So that means more to me than anything. And I hope you guys got to experience that also. So to kick off this new year, 2017, it really was good to me. I can't complain about it. You guys, the YouTube part of my life has been great. My personal life has been great. I've been blessed beyond measure. I've got an amazing wife that I can make a whole nother video just talking about how amazing my wife is, how supportive she is, and just my family and friends. And it's 2017 was good. I hope it was good for you guys too, but I hope 2018 is better for all of us. Right? Anyway, we're gonna take this brisket burn in. Like I said, this brisket point, we're gonna trim it up a little bit, get it injected, seasoned, make some burn ends. This should be good. And I just want to say really quickly, I truly from the bottom of my heart, appreciate all the support that you guys have given me throughout this last year. You guys have made 2017 really amazing. You truly have. And I can't wait to see what 2018 brings to not only me, but to all of you, every single one of you. This should be good. Anyway, let's get this video underway. Again, thank you again. Let's get started. All right, so what I have here is the point end of a brisket, and it actually has part of the flat on top, and it's a point at the bottom. So, going with just this piece is going to work perfect since it's just a misses an eye. One whole brisket is just going to be too much. So there's not a lot of trimming that I had to do to this thing. I did trim the back just a little bit, but not much. Just spot trimmed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an injection made up, and the injection mainly is just to add some more beefy flavor to it, not necessarily for moisture. So I'm just going to be some beef broth with a few other ingredients. You can inject it with whatever you like to use. Then the rub we're going to use on this is a rub I haven't used before. We're going to make it up, found it online, and I want to give it a try. So once we get this injected, we'll get the rub made up and get this cook underway. All right, so I got my injection made up, but what I wanted to show you guys really quickly here is it's really important to use the right injector. I mean, there are tons out there, and a lot of them are great. And this isn't really about like what brand to use or what style to use. The main thing I wanted to show you really quickly, because this is a mistake that I've been making for a long time, and even as long as I've been cooking, I mean, even someone like me can still mess up and still has a lot of learning to do. And I wanted to show you this because I've seen a lot of people use the wrong needle. Like I said, I myself have been doing it for years. It's really important when you're injecting your meats to use the right needle gauge. This here has been let me pull this camera out a little bit. Let me get a better view of this. So this here has been my injector that I've always used. That's the needle for it. I've used it in many videos. I use it at competitions. I mean, this has always been, and I really like this one. And but one thing I've noticed is when I inject, let's say I'm doing a brisket or even a pork butt, when I inject it and I let it sit for a while, when I go and pull that meat out of the pan or whatever container it's in, I always notice that there's a lot of liquid in the pan. And one thing that I've come to realize is, and it's actually something that I've already known. I've just was so stubborn to make the change. But see this needle opening here? Oh, we can make that out. It's anyway, I'll compare it to the other one. This here, I'm not sure what gauge this is, but this is huge. And this leaves, you know, a lot of room in there for that injection to come right out, which, you know, I've been seeing, like I just mentioned before, when I let my meat rest. This is my new injection that I switched over to. Again, it's not about the injection. You know, you can use any one you want. The main thing is the gauge, and this is the needle for it. I don't know what gauge this is, okay? But this is a 20 gauge. Now, let's see if you can make out the difference here in the needles. Well, I'm not sure if you can make out the difference in the opening of the needle. See how huge that is? I mean, this whole needle can fit right in here. I mean, it's huge. This 20 gauge is really, really small. Now, I've been using this for a little bit, practicing with it. And one thing that I learned or noticed, when I inject my brisket with this and I let it rest, when I pull that brisket out, there is no juice in that pan compared to like there is when I use this one. And that's because the hole that this needle leaves is very, very small. So a lot of that injection doesn't have room to come out. So using the right needle nose gauge is hugely important, wildly important. But the downside to this is if you're injecting something that has a rub in it or any kind of seasoning. Oh, let me get this. Oh, I gotta get it tied up. If you're injecting something that has rub or seasoning of any kind, this is going to get clogged up. So just kind of keep that in mind. But anyway, I just wanted to show you, you know, what I was using and what I'm using now, and tell you that, man, having the right gauge makes a huge difference. And I noticed that the beefy flavor definitely stayed in that brisket longer when I used up the proper equipment. So just wanted to show you that. I'm going to get this injected all over, and then we'll get this rub made up. All right, the brisket is injected. Put that aside. Next, we're going to start on this rub. Again, I will leave all the ingredients and the measurements down below. Keep in mind, though, that what I add here and the ingredient list is going to be in the description box below. Those measurements are going to be different. I'm only going to make half of that recipe, since I'm only doing a point. I'm not doing a whole brisket. So the measurements down below in the show more area of this video, that will be the full recipe for, you know, full brisket, but I'm only doing half. So here I'm going with 3/4 cups of kosher salt. I'm gonna add half a cup of coarse black pepper. Next, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of granulated garlic. I will say that there's one ingredient on the list that I'm not adding, which is granulated onion powder. And that's because I can't find it. I don't know where the heck my onion powder is. So I thought about scrapping this altogether, this rub recipe, but I'm just going to go with it without the onion powder, and we'll see how it works. But just keep that in mind that while I'm not adding it in here, it does call for it. So there's 1 tablespoon of granulated garlic. We're going to skip the onion powder. I'm going to add half a tablespoon of New Mexico chili powder. Go a little bit more. To that, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of sweet Hungarian paprika. Show you what that looks like here. Right here. So I'm going to add half a tablespoon of that. I'm going to add cayenne powder. 1 tablespoon of cayenne powder. And then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of cumin. Or ground comino. That's it. We'll get this mixed up, and this will be the rub that we use for our brisket. All right, I got the brisket here rubbed down. I did film me rubbing the brisket, and I was talking about the rub and why you don't actually rub the meat or rub the rub into the meat. But I don't know what happened. When I went back and looked at the footage, part of it was really good, and then about halfway through, it just got really yellow tint to it. So I didn't like that, so I'm going to reshoot this part, but it's already rubbed down. So this is what the brisket looks like. I rub the bottom, rub the top. We're going to cook this fat cap down. We're going to cook this on the Traeger at 275. It is like 20-something degrees outside. It's cold. I'm going to put on that Traeger and let it go. What I was talking about the rub is when you're applying the rub, never actually rub the meat. I don't, at least. And the reason for that is, you get that rub on there, and then you go to like move it around, and you get spots that have more rub than other spots. So I don't like to rub it. Get the layer on there, or get the rub on there. You can pat it down, and that works just fine. So this is what it looks like. We're gonna let this sit until the Traeger gets up to temp, and then we'll get it on. All right, got it on the Traeger, 275, and we'll pick back up in a few hours. All right, you guys, this brisket point has been cooking for 4 hours. It's got some nice color to it. The bark has set. At the 1 hour mark, I did start spritzing it with just some beef broth, just to kind of keep it moist and add a little bit of more beef flavor. You can spritz with whatever you like or not spritz. I decided to spritz, and so that's what I use. So this is what we got here. Like I said, it's got some nice color. The bark is set. I did temp it. It's sitting at about 165, 170. So it's right around that stall area. What I'm going to do is go ahead and wrap it. Spritz it with a little more of that spritz, and then I'm going to add some beef broth to this. I'm going to get it wrapped back up and back on the Traeger. And let it finish out. So that should be enough. Wrap it up, get it back out there. I'm gonna let it go for another 2 hours, and we'll check it then. All right, you guys, this brisket has been on wrapped for about an hour and a half. I temped it with my thermopan, and it's reading just a little bit over 200. Actually about 208 to 210 in some spots. So this is done. I'm gonna let it rest for just a bit, and then I'm going to remove the flap from the point, and then get that point back on. I'm going to take this juice, put it in my grease separator, and then we'll pour that back in with the burnt ends once we put those back on. So let's let this sit for a bit, and like I said, I'm going to remove this flat from the point. All right, I'm going to get this flat removed from this point. And then we're going to let this flat rest even longer, a little bit longer in some foil. So I'm going to take this flat and we're going to put it aside. Wrap that in some foil. I'm going to take some more of that rub. Just sprinkle a little bit on here where that point is exposed. And then I'm going to put this back on the pit. I bumped it up to 300. I'm going to put it back on for, I don't know, probably about an hour, and we'll see how that, or however long it takes for that bark to set. As you can see, like this piece here, this fat that is in this point has definitely rendered out. And this is really, really squishy, which is exactly, look at that. It's exactly what we're looking for. So I'm going to cut these up. We're going to get them in the pan, put some sauce. We're going to put the au jus that was left from the foil pan, or from the foil when we wrapped it. We're going to add that juice in with the burnt ends and some sauce and get them back on the pit. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this au jus that I put in my grease separator. As you can see, the fat is kind of separated from the grease some. Now I'm going to pour that right into this pan here. To that, I'm going to add some barbecue sauce that I made up. You can use any barbecue sauce of your choice, but this is some that I whipped up. It's actually a combination of a couple of commercial sauces that I really, really like. I'm going to mix this up with a spoon just a little bit. I'm going to get them back on the pit for about 10-15 minutes. Let that sauce set, and then we'll pull them off. All right, you guys, these burnt ends are done. I let them, let the sauce set a little bit on that pit for about 20 minutes. I pulled them off and then just slightly dabbed them with some of that extra barbecue sauce. And this is what they look like. Look at that. These things are tender as all get out. I can't wait to try it. Let's give it a shot. All right, you guys, these burnt ends are done. Look at this. This thing is just, this is so like just gooey and soft, tender as all get out. Let's see what it tastes like. Holy cow, that's good. These things literally melt in your mouth. That is not an exaggeration at all. Holy cow. These things are so good. They've got some great bark on here. I hope you can make that. The lighting isn't that great, I apologize. But they got some great bark. The seasoning, actually, that rub, I think it was excellent on this beef. The sauce, mixing it with the beef broth and the au jus when it all, when I took it out of the wrap, you know, and separated the grease from the au jus, that was perfect. These things are damn good. And they're so, God, they're so tender. That fat rendered out perfectly. I mean, it's almost like falling apart in your hand. You just, Damn, that's good. Anyway, to kick off the new year, some brisket burnt ends. What better way? Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, share, subscribe. I would truly, truly appreciate it. I will see you guys next time. Take care.